this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Colorado is trying to silence free speech again. A state law forces businesses to use customers' preferred pronouns, even if they're biologically inaccurate. With the help of Alliance Defending Freedom, a Christian bookstore and a sports apparel company are challenging the law, but a court recently ruled against them. They appealed the ruling, and with the ADF's help, they'll keep fighting another attempt by Colorado to skirt the First Amendment. Learn more about how you can support free speech by texting RPA to 83848 or going to joinadf.com/RPA. Sponsored by Alliance Defending Freedom.
When you own your own business, you need to keep things moving. Need to book a last-minute flight? Earn a $300 travel credit to cover that. Need to take a meeting before takeoff? Do it from the comfort of the Chase Sapphire Lounge by the club. Need to catch your breath before you board? Done. Chase Sapphire Reserve for Business, the business card that gives back all you put in. Visit chase.com/reserve business to learn more. Cards issued by JPMorgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC, subject to credit approval. Terms apply.
Based on the best-selling novel from Carly Fortune, the new Prime original series Every Year After follows Sam and Percy across 6 summers as they take a second chance at a love that never really let go. It's the kind of story that brings you back to a summer crush you never fully got over, or a friendship that almost turned into something more. With slow burn tension, lakeside nostalgia, and that lingering what if, it's the kind of show people say they couldn't stop watching and were a little emotionally destroyed by, in the best way. Watch Every Year After, streaming June 10th, only on Prime.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
I think when you're diagnosed with cancer, you crave a semblance of normalcy and control. And so work allowed me to be me. So I think it's really important that companies stay flexible. Cancer and a diagnosis can be all-consuming, but it doesn't have to be.
Research shows there is a significant connection between the ability to continue to work and cancer recovery. We can make work a better place for healing.
Learn more and sign the pledge at workingwithcancerpledge.com.
This is Red Pilled America. Hey Fam Bam, if you love Red Pilled America, the easiest way to support the show is to follow or subscribe to us on whatever podcast app you listen to us on. That way, every new show will download automatically to your device. Also, if you want to listen to Red Pilled America ad-free, become a Backstage subscriber. Just go to redpilledamerica.com and click Join in the top menu. Support what you love or it goes away. Now on with the show. Previously on Red Pilled America.
The massive MAGA civil war that has taken place over the Christmas holidays that began with the critique over H-1B visas.
An H-1B visa is a type of U.S. work visa that purports to bring so-called highly skilled immigrant workers to America.
The United States does not officially recognize dual citizenship.
So to get a gauge on how people feel about this topic, we spoke to you. Do you think it's legal for an American citizen to also be a citizen of one or more countries?
Yes.
Am I eligible to be a citizen in any other countries? But with their Ephraim decision, the Supreme Court ruled that U.S. citizenship is a constitutional right protected by the 14th Amendment.
What's an American?
I'm Patrick Corelchi.
And I'm Adriana Cortez.
And this is Red Pilled America, a storytelling show.
This is not another talk show covering the day's news. We're all about telling stories.
Stories Hollywood doesn't want you to hear.
Stories the media mocks. Stories about everyday Americans that the globalists ignore.
You can think of Red Pilled America as audio documentaries, and we promise only one thing. The truth. Welcome to Red Pilled America.
Please be seated.
It was November 29th, 1990, when President George H.W. Bush stepped into a White House signing ceremony and gave away America's future.
Thank you very much for coming, everybody.
The atmosphere was festive, almost jubilant, and perhaps for a good reason, because the tech titans in the room were getting just what they wanted.
Today I am pleased to sign S-358, the Immigration Act of 1990. It is the most comprehensive reform of our immigration laws in 66 years. This bill is good for families, good for business, good for crime fighting, and good for America.
But the bill was anything but good for the country, because it would not only nearly triple immigration on the eve of a recession, it would also provide a pipeline for foreigners to take over some of the most important industries in America. We're at the finale of our series of episodes entitled What's an American? We're looking for the answer to that question by taking a deep dive into the meaning of American citizenship. So to pick up where we left off in the last episode, in a razor-thin 5-4 split decision, the Supreme Court narrowly sided with Beis Ephraim, ruling that it was unconstitutional for Congress to revoke his American citizenship for voting in an Israeli election. According to the court, U.S. expatriation had to be voluntary and intentional. The decision set an extraordinarily high standard for expatriation. Even if an American citizen naturalized in another country, renouncing allegiance to the United States, Congress could still not revoke this person's citizenship. In 1976, the U.S. Department of State underscored the impact of the Ephraim decision. It announced that the only way that an American could lose their citizenship was by explicitly and officially renouncing it with the U.S. government. The policy meant that an American could swear an allegiance to a foreign power, become a citizen of a foreign state, hold public office in a foreign country, and even serve in a foreign military, all without being expatriated. Dual citizenship may not have been officially recognized by the U.S. government, but it was effectively legal. The Ephraim case diminished one of the foundational principles of being an American, exclusive allegiance to the United States. Americans could now have a deeper connection with their ancestral lands than with the U.S. A transnational America finally became a reality. And this movement blossomed at just the right time, because the anti-American Herbert Marcuse had begun resonating within academic circles, the kind that refused to assimilate to the country's Anglo-Saxon norms. Marcuse's intelligentsia disciples were convincing socialists, disgruntled racial and sexual minorities, and feminists that they were all victims being oppressed by the evil capitalist colonizers. His ideas explained everything about their misery. But the problem was that Marcuse was a bit abstract in his delivery.
The social mechanisms of manipulation, indoctrination, repression, which are responsible for this lack of a mass basis, which are responsible for the integration of the majority of the oppositional forces into the established social system.
His message resonated with an influential but small segment of the U.S. population. For his victimhood ideology to spread far and wide, he needed someone to package his brand of Marxism for mass consumption.
Enter Howard Zinn, the man that popularized victimhood.
My parents were European immigrants, and we lived in the slums of Brooklyn.
That's Howard Zinn reflecting on his childhood. Zinn was born in 1922, the son of working-class Jewish immigrants from Eastern Europe. His father was a waiter, his mother a garment worker.
And what I did see and what did register with me is that my father worked very hard, and he had nothing to show for it.
They weren't scholars. The only bookshelf in the Zinn household was a window ledge. But before he was done, Howard Zinn would have his anti-American book on practically every high school and university bookshelf in the United States. In 1943, at the age of 21, Zinn enlisted in the United States Army Air Forces.
I became a bombardier in World War II, and I was an enthusiastic bombardier, the war against fascism and all of that.
He flew missions over Nazi-controlled Europe. One of his final assignments in the spring of 1945 was dropping napalm bombs on the French seaside resort town of Royan. Zinn would later call it evil. That moment stayed with him. After the war, he used the GI Bill to go to college, eventually earning a PhD from Columbia, the same university that gave refuge to Herbert Marcuse and the Frankfurt School Marxist. He was the son of Jewish immigrants from the Brooklyn Projects, suddenly in the Ivy League. But instead of seeing himself as someone blessed by America's opportunities, he adopted a victimhood narrative of the world, soaking up Columbia's brand of Marxism like a sponge. In 1956, Zinn took a job teaching at Spelman College, a historically black women's university in Atlanta. He taught Plato by day and marched for civil rights by night. He became a faculty advisor to the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the same group that spawned radicals like Stokely Carmichael and the Black Power movement. Zinn encouraged his students to protest what he saw as their university's passivity on civil rights. He moved on to Boston University, where he clashed with just about everyone who wasn't on the picket line. He joined Vietnam War protests, visited North Vietnam. His view on America as a global oppressor blossomed. Through his lens, America was not a shining light of opportunity. It was a heartless factory that churned out victims.
Whenever anybody said to me, in America, if you work hard, you'll make it, I always was indignant when I heard that statement because I knew how untrue it was.
Zinn didn't just want to reform American institutions. He wanted to burn them to the ground, then erect Marxist indoctrination hubs in their place. And nowhere would that mission be clearer than in the book he spent years writing between lectures, student sit-ins, and anti-war rallies. He called it A People's History of the United States, and he wrote it from a very specific perspective.
Some of you may know George Orwell's statement, "Whoever controls the past controls the future, and whoever controls the present controls the past. And whoever is in charge of the culture decides what history we get, or tries to decide what history we get. And our job is to look beyond that and to try to find our own history, the one that they don't want us to have."
Zinn believed the true history of the United States was being kept from the American people. And so he wanted to write a book not from the perspective of history's winners, but instead from that of its losers. To do that, Zinn had to go all the way back to the origin narrative of America.
I made up my mind that I was going to tell the history of the United States from a different point of view. I was going to tell the story of Columbus from the standpoint of the Indians.
If you were born in or before the 1970s, at some point in grade school, you were told the story of Christopher Columbus, the young explorer that sailed west from Spain in 1492, discovering the New World. It was a bold and daring trip that launched Western civilization in the Americas. Zinn didn't just reject that story, he torched it. In Chapter 1 of A People's History, he quotes Columbus's journal describing how friendly and generous the native people were, before noting how quickly Columbus turned to enslaving and brutalizing them.
"They would make fine servants,"
Columbus wrote in his journal. Zinn saw those words as the true founding document of America. He accused Columbus of genocide, not discovery. For Zinn, this wasn't just historical correction. It was ideological warfare. In place of conquest and progress, he gave readers conquest and cruelty.
I want to tell the story of the Mexican War from the standpoint of the Mexicans. The Southwest all belonged to Mexico, and we got it. From the point of view of the Mexicans, there was a war instigated by the United States, planned by President Polk even before that incident took place in 1846 between the Nueces River and the Rio Grande River.
In place of the founders, he gave readers slaveholders. In place of America's greatest presidents, he told their stories with the darkest interpretation of their biographies.
Lincoln suddenly was not, the great emancipator represented in that statue, the black kneeling before him gratefully. From the black point of view, or from any decent point of view, Lincoln was a reluctant emancipator. Kennedy was no civil rights advocate. Kennedy appointed racist, segregationist judges in the Deep South, in Alabama and Georgia and Mississippi. Theodore Roosevelt, one of our great presidents, he's high on any list of presidents. Tells you something about the historical teaching that has gone on in this country. This racist, when Italian immigrants were lynched in the South, Theodore Roosevelt wrote about it. Hey, it's not a bad idea. There he is on Mount Rushmore. Talk about environmental pollution.
U.S. history books did often oversimplify American progress, but Zinn took the exact same approach he criticized by generalizing America's shortcomings, providing the worst interpretations of its victories without the nuance and context required to uncover the truth. In his book, Zinn attacked the melting pot view of American culture. He instead wanted to replace it with multiculturalism. In his view, Americans shouldn't assimilate with the racist Anglo-Saxon regime. They should sit during the Pledge of Allegiance and even elevate their ethnic heritage above the evil colonizers. A people's history of the United States was filled with strikes, rebellions, and protests from the viewpoint of the strikers, rebels, and protesters. There was next to no celebration of invention, expansion, or American exceptionalism.
I guess I decided to write it because I was looking for a book like that, and I couldn't find it, so I wrote it.
And in 1980, Harper and Row published it. It didn't sell at first, but slowly, teachers discovered it, then colleges, then high schools. It became a cult classic among the disaffected and a flashpoint in the culture wars. A People's History of the United States became required reading in tens of thousands of American classrooms. It influenced teachers, activists, and even movies like Good Will Hunting.
You want to read a real history book, read Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States.
For Zinn, history was not neutral, but a weapon. Not a search for balance, but a call to battle. And it turned out there was a market for Zinn's brand of victimhood history. His book went on to sell millions of copies and became one of the best-selling history books of all time. By painting the U.S. as an evil colonizer responsible for unbelievable oppression and genocide, he inflicted incalculable damage on the psyche of American youth. He replaced hard-won progress with endless grievance, casting a cynical eye on patriotism, faith, capitalism, and the very idea of American pride. You didn't have to read his book to feel its impact on culture. In the years after its release, his arguments became embedded in the tone of American discourse, and the publication of A People's History gave fuel to the victimhood class that was about to grow exponentially.
Licorice, licorice, where art thou, licorice? If you listen to Red Pilled America, you know that I love licorice, and there is no licorice in America better than the delicious gourmet licorice made by the Licorice Guy. The Licorice Guy is simply the best. What sets their licorice apart is its flavor and freshness. They have a great selection of flavors to choose from, like red, blue raspberry, black, and green apple, just to name a few. The freshness of the Licorice Guy is unlike anything you've ever tasted in licorice before. Seriously, if you haven't tried licorice from the Licorice Guy yet, then you ain't living life right. Trust me, you will not regret it. It's time to dump that store-bought licorice that's so hard it'll break your teeth, and get yourself the soft, fresh stuff from the Licorice Guy. What I also love about the Licorice Guy is that it's an American family-owned business. It's made right here in the beautiful US of A. We are big proponents of buying American and supporting American workers. Right now, Red Pilled America listeners get 15% off when they enter RPA15 at checkout. Visit licoriceguy.com and enter RPA15 at checkout. That's licoriceguy.com. They ship daily. Treat yourself and those you love and taste the difference. Colorado is trying to silence free speech again. A state law forces businesses to use customers' preferred pronouns, even if they're biologically inaccurate. With the help of Alliance Defending Freedom, a Christian bookstore and a sports apparel company are challenging the law, but a court recently ruled against them. They appealed the ruling, and with the ADF's help, they'll keep fighting another attempt by Colorado to skirt the First Amendment. Learn more about how you can support free speech by texting RPA to 83848 or going to joinadf.com/RPA. Sponsored by Alliance Defending Freedom.
Hey, it's Ben Ferguson, and I want you to pause what you're doing for just 1 minute, and I want you to hear about love, generosity, and compassion. We say those words all the time, and they sound good. They feel good. But here's the truth. Those words don't mean anything unless they turn into action. And right now, not later today, not tomorrow, There's a child in the world who doesn't know if they'll eat, if they'll have a chance to learn, or if there's any hope at all. And while we're all busy, life keeps moving forward, but that child is waiting. This is where you come in. With Compassion International, you have the chance to change a child's future. Not just with words, not with promises, but with real help that provides food, education, and hope through local churches and people already in their community. Put your words into action and join me. Introduce a child to a loving Heavenly Father today at compassion.com. That's compassion.com.
When you own your own business, you need to keep things moving. Need to book a last-minute flight? Earn a $300 travel credit to cover that. Need to take a meeting before takeoff? Do it from the comfort of the Chase Sapphire Lounge by the club. Need to catch your breath before you board? Done. Chase Sapphire Reserve for Business, the business card that gives back all you put in. Visit chase.com/reserve business to learn more. Cards issued by JPMorgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC, subject to credit approval. Terms apply.
People at work supported me while I was going through treatment by not treating me like somebody who was going through treatment. Treatment sucks. Cancer sucks. Being engaged with work really helped to, I just knew I was going to beat this thing.
Research shows there is a significant connection between the ability to continue to work and cancer recovery. We can make work a better place for healing.
Learn more and sign the pledge at workingwithcancerpledge.com.
Turn someday into right now with Body by Jake Radio. Non-stop workout music and expert tips 24/7.
Hey, head over to iHeart.com, search Body by Jake Radio, and stream it for free right now.
Awesome health and wellness tips 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Remember, stick to the fight. When your hardest hit, it's when things seem worst that you must not quit. Don't quit.
Body by Jake Radio, where hope meets momentum.
Search Body by Jake Radio and stream it for free. Have a great day.
iHeartRadio.
Welcome back to Red Pilled America. When Howard Zinn published A People's History of the United States in 1980, the country was on a perilous road. Inflation was nearly 14%. GDP was negative. With high inflation and no growth, a stagflation gripped the nation. To make matters worse, America was being embarrassed on the international stage. In November 1979, radical Iranian students seized the U.S. Embassy in Tehran.
Some 60 Americans, including our fellow citizen whom you just saw bound and blindfolded, are now beginning their 6th day of captivity inside the U.S. Embassy in Tehran.
A year later, only 14 had been released. With the country in massive turmoil, on Election Day 1980, Americans chose a new direction.
The time has come. You've seen the map. We've looked at the figures, and NBC News now makes its projection for the presidency. Reagan is our projected winner, Ronald Wilson Reagan.
Thank you. Well, there's never been a more humbling moment in my life.
Just hours after his inauguration, the remaining American hostages in Iran were released, and President Reagan went into action on the economy. He implemented pro-growth policies. To reduce inflation, he tweaked fiscal policy. He drastically cut income taxes and slashed regulations. By 1984, America was experiencing a strong recovery. Inflation plummeted to roughly 3%, GDP surged to over 7%, and unemployment began to fall. On the international stage, the United States was also gaining an advantage in its Cold War with the Soviet Union. Consumer and business confidence soared, and America had momentum in foreign policy. As a result, Ronald Reagan won his re-election in a historic landslide.
It seems we did this 4 years ago, and let me just say, well, you know, good habits are hard to break.
Reagan won 49 out of 50 states. He only lost in Washington, D.C., and in his opponent Walter Mondale's home state of Minnesota. It was arguably one of the biggest landslides in U.S. presidential history. Reagan was given an undeniable mandate. He could have done anything he wanted to do to secure America's future. But as leaders often do, he let his guard down and made perhaps the biggest mistake in U.S. presidential history. The Reagan administration worked with Congress to pass the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. The bill had been floating around Washington, D.C. during Reagan's first term, but failed to pass, which should have been a red flag. You see, the original act granted amnesty for illegal aliens that arrived in the country before January 1st, 1982. In exchange, the bill included tighter border security and penalties on employers who hired illegal aliens. The agricultural lobby hated the original bill because they were concerned it would disrupt their flow of cheap labor. Border hawks felt that any form of amnesty was a dereliction of enforcement. So during the 1984 race for the White House, President Reagan himself worked with the media to reframe the bill as not a softening on immigration, but instead as a national security issue.
Mr. President, you too have said that our borders are out of control. Yet this fall, you allowed the Simpson-Mazzoli bill, which would at least have minimally protected our borders and the rights of citizenship, because of a relatively unimportant issue of reimbursement to the states for legalized aliens. Given that, may I ask what priority can we expect you to give this forgotten national security element? How sincere are you in your efforts to control, in effect, the nation state that is the United States?
It is true our borders are out of control. It is also true that this has been a situation on our borders back through a number of administrations. And I supported this bill. I believe in the idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally. And I'm going to do everything I can, and all of us in the administration are, to join in again, when Congress is back at it, to get an immigration bill that will give us once again control of our borders.
So to get the bill through in Reagan's second term, they weakened it. They added a provision that allowed illegal aliens that had been working in U.S. agriculture for merely 90 days to be eligible for amnesty. They also softened sanctions on employers, requiring them to only use good faith efforts to verify the legal status of their employees. Prior to 1986, it was not against the law for employers to hire illegal aliens, which created an immigrant magnet, especially in industries like agriculture, construction, and hospitality. At the time of the debates around the act, experts claimed that roughly 1 million illegal aliens would be provided amnesty. President Reagan was sold on the compromise. It passed Congress with bipartisan support. And on September 6, 1986, President Reagan invited the press to the signing ceremony.
This bill, the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986 that I'll sign in a few minutes, is the most comprehensive reform of our immigration laws since 1952. Our objective is only to establish a reasonable, fair, orderly, and secure system of immigration into this country, and not to discriminate in any way against particular nations or people. Future generations of Americans will be thankful for our efforts to humanely regain control of our borders and thereby preserve the value of one of the most sacred possessions of our people, American citizenship.
But American citizens got hoodwinked. Employers that wanted cheap labor found ways around the citizenship verification requirement. And that was just the beginning of their problems. Shortly after the bill passed, civil rights groups and labor unions sued the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Services. They claimed foreign-looking and sounding applicants were being discriminated against and demanded the elimination of the enforcement mechanism. But they didn't stop there. They sued to shift the 1982 amnesty cutoff date. With each lawsuit, the U.S. government gave a little, loosening the enforcement parameters and opening the cutoff window. It became clear that a pipeline was opening for even more to acquire amnesty. Immigrants began rushing illegally over the border. Before it was all done, nearly 3 million illegal aliens were granted amnesty, triple the initial estimate. And most importantly, the enforcement mechanism was effectively dismantled. Reagan's amnesty didn't reduce illegal immigration, it grew it exponentially. Without enforcement, pro-immigration groups understood that it would just be a matter of time before another amnesty was granted. The message to the world was clear. If you can get into America, you will inevitably be a citizen. Immigrants continued to illegally surge across America's southern border. But this time it was different. Prior to Reagan's amnesty, most illegal immigrants were from Mexico. But once the bill was signed, immigrants came from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Brazil, Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela, each making a deliberate decision not to subject themselves to U.S. immigration law. Reagan's amnesty chipped away at the American dream. By flooding the country with people that had no allegiance to the United States, it destroyed the value of American citizenship. Illegal aliens lowered wages and work standards, increased crime and the cost of health care, and inflated property values. They lowered school testing scores and frayed social cohesion. Many had been in America for decades, but still wouldn't learn the English language. They refused to assimilate, creating a permanent disgruntled class vulnerable to the victimhood ideology of Herbert Marcuse and Howard Zinn. With the onslaught of new arrivals, the U.S. government provided benefits like healthcare, education, and perhaps most troublingly, the open borders lawyers creating this new pipeline began perverting birthright citizenship. You may recall the story of the 1898 Wong Kim Ark Supreme Court decision we told in an earlier episode of this series. In that case, the Supreme Court only gave citizenship to children born on American soil if their parents were legally and permanently residing in the United States, and we know this for several reasons. In their decision, the court continually repeated that Wong Kim Ark's parents were permanently domiciled in the United States at the time of their son's birth, meaning they were in the country legally. This satisfied the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment that states,
"All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens."
Because Wong Kim Ark's parents were in the U.S. legally, their son was subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Wong Kim Ark's status satisfied the 14th Amendment. But the court's decision did not grant citizenship to everyone born on American soil. In the decades following the ratification of the 14th Amendment and the Wong Kim Ark decision, children born to Native Americans were still excluded from birthright citizenship. That's because the children of Native Americans were not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. They had allegiance to a foreign power, their tribe. It took an act of Congress in 1924 to grant them U.S. citizenship. The same applies to children of illegal aliens born on American soil. Their allegiance is with their parents' home country, not America. Many even openly admit it.
I'm a first-generation American, but like I've always said, I am Mexican first, American second.
To this day, contrary to what open border activists say, the Supreme Court has never directly ruled on whether children born in the United States to illegal aliens are U.S. citizens. But in the wake of President Reagan's amnesty, pro-immigration activists began twisting the meaning of birthright citizenship, arguing that the children of illegal aliens were in fact American because they were born on American soil. They were wrong. The drafting of the 14th Amendment was clearly not intended to cover illegal aliens. It was written to give citizenship to freed slaves. Nevertheless, granting birthright citizenship to the children of illegal aliens born on American soil became U.S. policy. It created the phenomenon of anchor babies, where illegal aliens deliberately have children in the U.S. to prevent their deportation. This policy mortally wounded the value and meaning of American citizenship and forever changed the national prospects for GOP candidates. California was once a Republican stronghold, but once illegals were given amnesty and their children came of age, that would all change. After the 1988 election, no Republican president candidate ever won California again. The anti-American forces were changing the face of America from the ground up, and their next move would look to alter the U.S. from a different angle. Colorado is at it again, trying to silence free speech. A law in Colorado forces businesses to use customers' preferred pronouns, even if they're biologically inaccurate, and even if using those incorrect pronouns would violate a person's religious beliefs or conscience. That's a violation of free speech. But as Colorado has proved time and time again, it has little concern for the First Amendment. At Alliance Defending Freedom, they're challenging the law on behalf of a Christian bookstore and a Colorado-based sports apparel company, but a court recently ruled against them. With ADF's help, they appealed the ruling, and they'll continue fighting to ensure Colorado doesn't get away with this next attempt to skirt the First Amendment. Your gift helps protect free speech in cases like this all over the country, and for a limited time, your first gift to ADF is doubled by a special matching grant while funds last. Text RPA to 83848 or go to joinadf.com/RPA to have your gift doubled. Sponsored by Alliance Defending Freedom.
Hey, it's Ben Ferguson, and I want you to pause what you're doing for just 1 minute, and I want you to hear about Alejandra. She lives in a remote community with very few resources and little to no health care. So when Alejandra gets sick, her parents have no real options. No doctors in their community, and no money for real medical care. By the third day, her body was shutting down. She woke up and just long enough to tell her mom, "I can't take the pain anymore. I can't keep going." Her parents drove hours to find a doctor who tried everything, but she needed a private hospital, and that was impossible for her family to afford. And that is when Compassion International stepped in. Now, through Compassion, Alejandra was treated, and against all odds, she survived. She lived because someone, just like you, took action. Right now, unfortunately, there are children just like Alejandra who won't survive unless someone like you steps in. Compassion International partners with local churches, providing children with the support that they need, critical medical care, plus food, education, and the hope of the gospel, all in Jesus' name. So help a child just like Alejandra today. You can visit compassion.com. That's compassion.com.
When you own your own business, you need to keep things moving. Need to book a last-minute flight? Earn a $300 travel credit to cover that. Need to take a meeting before takeoff? Do it from the comfort of the Chase Sapphire Lounge by the club. Need to catch your breath before you board? Done. Chase Sapphire Reserve for Business, the business card that gives back all you put in. Visit chase.com/reserve business to learn more. Cards issued by JPMorgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC, subject to credit approval. Terms apply.
I need to be healthy every day to survive it and go through the next chemo round and the next chemo round. So it's important that work was part of that, to keep my mind busy for 8-9 hours. And then I had to go back and face the reality. I had a goal, and the goal is to survive.
Research shows there is a significant connection between the ability to continue to work and cancer recovery. We can make work a better place for healing.
Learn more and sign the pledge at workingwithcancerpledge.com.
Turn someday into right now with Body by Jake Radio. Non-stop workout music and expert tips 24/7.
Hey, head over to iHeart.com, search Body by Jake Radio, and stream it for free right now.
Awesome health and wellness tips 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Remember, stick to the fight. When your heart is hit, it's when things seem worst that you must not quit. Don't quit.
Body by Jake Radio, where hope meets momentum.
Search Body by Jake Radio and stream it for free. Have a great day.
iHeartRadio.
Do you want to hear Red Pilled America stories ad-free? Then become a Backstage subscriber. Just log on to redpilledamerica.com and click Join in the top menu. Join today and help us save America one story at a time. Welcome back to Red Pilled America. President Reagan's amnesty was a colossal failure. It didn't stop illegal immigration, it expanded it. Illegal aliens were coming into the country, having children, and then imbuing them with the same ideas that destroyed the countries they fled from. What was happening in America in the late 1980s was exactly what the Founding Fathers like Thomas Jefferson feared.
They will bring with them the principles of the governments they leave, imbibed in their early youth.
An enormous influx of foreign ideas began to seep into America, and they started to infect what was once thought to be an untouchable area, the sciences.
I discovered that the National Academy of Sciences had faked a shortage of scientists and engineers.
That's Eric Weinstein talking to Joe Rogan in 2024 about a secret study he discovered in the 1980s.
The Reagan administration, for the first time, they appointed somebody to come in from industry rather than academics to head the National Science Foundation, a guy named Eric Bloch.
According to Weinstein, Eric Bloch hired an economist to look at how much scientists and engineers were going to cost in the near future. And what was found alarmed the industry insider.
And they picked an economist named Miles Boylan, who in 1986 wrote a study that said, here's how expensive it's going to be to pay for scientists and engineers who are American in the future. The price of American scientists and engineers was going to hit 6 figures. How do we avoid having to pay 6 figures for new PhDs?
According to Eric Weinstein, they came up with a solution.
And they said, let's fake a demographic supply crisis where we wouldn't have enough scientists.
In other words, they faked a shortage of scientists and engineers.
The National Academy was acting against the American interest by narrowly saying we need to make American scientists and engineers cheaper, that we need to flood the market, we need to interfere in the wage mechanism, we need to allow China first look at everything we do. I had caught them in this conspiracy against American scientists. And they spun an entire story about we need the best and the brightest, but it was all about money.
And in 1990, President George H.W. Bush used this same argument to flood America's science and tech industry with cheap foreign labor.
Today I am pleased to sign S-358, the Immigration Act of 1990. Immigration reform began in 1986 with an effort to close the back door on illegal immigration. And now as we open the front door to increased legal immigration, this bill provides long-needed enforcement authority. Immigration is not just a link to America's past, it's also a bridge to America's future. This bill provides for a vital increases for entry on the basis of skills, infusing the ranks of our scientists and engineers and educators with new blood and new ideas.
The Immigration Act of 1990 brought into existence the infamous H-1B work visa, the same controversial visa that launched our journey into the question, what's an American? Like Reagan's amnesty before it, the H-1B visa chipped away at the American dream. It decreased the value of a science and engineering degree. If an American student couldn't earn enough to recoup the investment in an expensive degree in these fields, they eventually abandoned the path altogether. Over time, Americans were effectively replaced by cheaper foreign-born workers. A recent study showed that 66% of U.S. tech sector employees are foreign-born. 66%. These are the same people that go on to control our social media feeds, AI algorithms, and universities. People with stronger allegiances to a foreign power have saturated the very institutions that define what it means to be an American. And many of these foreign-born techies go on to become dual citizens with the U.S. and their homeland. You may recall at the opening of this series that we wanted to get a gauge on how people felt about the topic of dual citizenship. So we asked many of you a series of simple questions on the topic. And there were some differences of opinion on whether dual citizenship should be allowed.
Probably not. The thinking being that, if you're a citizen of the United States, you should probably be loyal to the United States and, not to Great Britain or Zimbabwe.
Do you think it should be allowed?
Yes.
Yes.
I do.
I think it's probably done worldwide with dual citizenship. So I guess I would say, I think that could be allowed.
I think it should be illegal because then there are no borders then. You are sovereign to one nation.
Do you think that dual citizenship should be allowed?
I think so. Because personally I was born in Mexico. I became naturalized here in the U.S. So as far as I know, I'm still a citizen of Mexico, but my allegiance is to the U.S. once I was naturalized.
Answers were about split on whether dual citizenship should be allowed in the United States. But when asked a different way, the answers were near unanimous.
Do you think it's legal for an American citizen to swear allegiance to a foreign state?
No, it sounds like treason to me.
Absolutely not.
You do not. And do you think that should be allowed?
Absolutely not.
Do you think it's legal for an American citizen to swear allegiance to a foreign state?
No.
I would think that was unconstitutional.
It is illegal, and it should be. No, not if they're a citizen of the U.S.
Do you think it's legal for an American citizen to swear allegiance to a foreign state?
I do not think it is.
Okay. Do you think that should be allowed?
If you're a citizen of the United States, then you should be loyal to the United States above all else.
Our listeners were split on dual citizenship, yet almost universally believed that swearing an allegiance to a foreign state should be illegal. But the two are the same thing. For an American citizen to become a dual citizen of another country, they must swear an oath of allegiance to that foreign power. To be frank, we didn't know this until we began research for this series. Our institutions have done a poor job of conveying this fact to the public. And that is how the sacred value of American citizenship has been diluted. Exclusive allegiance to America was the foundation on which U.S. citizenship was originally built. From the beginning, Americans rejected allegiance to a foreign power, the British Crown. Our founders wanted U.S. citizens to have an allegiance to the American principles of self-governance, freedom, liberty, justice, opportunity, equality, and the rule of law. They tried to set up a system where only those with the highest likelihood of assimilating to these principles were allowed in. Our founders warned us that foreign influences could enter America and corrupt the populace. When creating the first citizenship clause, our leaders rightfully included exclusive allegiance to America as a condition of birthright citizenship. But through decades of chipping away at America's foundations, foreigners could claim U.S. citizenship by their parents simply breaking into the country and giving birth to them. Exclusive allegiance to America and her principles are of paramount importance to the country's long-term survival, which is why dual citizenship is so dangerous.
When I first started research for this series, I began wondering, am I eligible to be a citizen in any other countries? And if so, which ones? What about Adriana? How easy would it be for us to acquire dual citizenship? And we found out.
Most countries that allow dual citizenship cut eligibility off at the grandparents. If either of them was born in the country, you qualify. Mexico falls into this category. Both of my parents were born in Mexico, making me easily eligible for dual citizenship in that country.
My grandparents on my dad's side were also born in Mexico, making me eligible there as well. My Nana on my mom's side was born in Ireland, making me eligible for citizenship in the Emerald Isle. Providing the proof necessary to gain citizenship in those countries is easy. It's just a few birth certificates and marriage licenses that connect myself to my grandparents. In a matter of months, I could be a citizen in 3 different countries.
And I in 2.
But we could not imagine taking that step.
We are Americans through and through. I would never desecrate the sacrifice of my grandmother, whose parents started making the trek into America legally over 100 years ago.
And I would never dishonor the sacrifice of John Kemper. John was from a German mining town named Mussen. He was a skilled miner. In 1713, he and his colleagues were invited by Alexander Spotswood, the governor of Virginia, to extract silver and iron ore from the hills of the colony. John was known as an adventurous type. He gathered with a mix of 12 families, all Protestants, totaling 40 German villagers, and they set on their journey to start a life in America. Their travels were a long and arduous one. They were met with delays, abandonment, and near starvation. They eventually arrived in America in April 1714. John Kemper and those 12 families set up the first German colony in Virginia. It was called Germana. They created a fort on the frontiers of Virginia, an extremely dangerous area at the time. Just a few years earlier, settlers in this region were attacked by the Tuscarora Indians. A large number of them were massacred. The Surveyor General, John Lawson, was burned at the stake. So Governor Spotswood gave these German settlers the Germana colony to not only mine the area, but to act as a barrier to Indians looking to attack Virginia colonists. John Kemper, his countrymen, and their families put their bodies between the Virginia colony and the Indians looking to kill them. In other words, John Kemper made an extraordinary sacrifice, not to make America great, but to make America. He was my 6th great-grandfather. By becoming a dual citizen of Mexico or Ireland, I'd be dishonoring the sacrifice of John Kemper and Jacob Coons, my fourth great-grandfather who fought in the American Revolution, and John C. Reed, my third great-grandfather that fought in the Mexican-American War to annex Texas. If I were to become a dual citizen, I'd be dishonoring the sacrifice of my great-grandfather, William Henry Coons II, that served in World War I, my grandfather, Frederick Coons, Nana Mary Cox, and grandfather Rudolph Karelchi, who all served in World War II, and my father Rudy, who served in Vietnam. This is all to say that we'll never have allegiance with any other country but America. We've burned the boats. This is our home. But the same can't be said for members of our Congress. No one knows how many members of Congress are dual citizens. They refuse to divulge that bit of information. And that's, of course, a major problem, because they pass legislation that impacts American citizenship, our border, and foreign policy. Like GOP Rep. Maria Salazar. Her parents were born in Cuba. Her entire career has been built around her connection to Havana. She's famously one of the only Spanish-speaking TV reporters to have interviewed Fidel Castro one-on-one. Now in Washington, D.C., she wants to give amnesty to illegal aliens. She just pretends like it's not amnesty.
Now there is another mass of people, who most of them are Hispanics, who have been here for more than 5 years. They have been contributing to the economy, who do not have a criminal record. And those people are the ones who deserve some type of dignity. And for that reason, I'm introducing today, so I thank you for the opportunity, immigration reform. A GOP member of Congress is going to be trying to give dignity, not amnesty, to those people who deserve to stay and continue contributing to our economy.
Since Congress has refused to disclose whether its members are dual citizens, Red Pilled America analyzed their biographies to investigate which are eligible to be dual citizens. What we found was the potentially vast influence foreign countries have on our policies. Many claim Israel runs Washington, D.C. While it's true that many D.C. politicians have ancestral connections to Israel, that foreign power is far from having the most representation in the nation's capital. In the Senate, Israel-friendly senators only outnumber the European Union by one member. In the House, European Union-connected congressman dwarfs Israel's representation by nearly 2-1. Even Mexico representation outnumbers the Jewish state in the House. And it's not hard to see how foreign influences can over time make a nation unrecognizable. Take, for example, the United States mother country, the United Kingdom. At one time over the past decade, the mayor of London, Birmingham, Leeds, Blackburn, Sheffield, Oxford, Luton, Oldham, and Rochdale were all either Muslim or of Muslim descent, a strange development when Britain is the country that helped spread the Protestant movement. In 2023, the top baby name for boys in England and Wales was Muhammad. If Brits are happy with this trend, that's their prerogative. But this shift doesn't bode well for legacy Britain. And if it continues, the UK will be saturated with people that clearly hate the country's roots. People like Narendra Kaur, a popular British social commentator of Sikh descent, who thinks England's flag is racist.
As a woman of colour, I'd feel in this country that St. George's flag represents to me far-right racism and bigotry. And actually, we should be proud. What we should be proud of in Britain is actually we are diverse, we are multicultural.
Shall I tell you
and the good people of Britain will always want diversity.
People that hate what a country stands for will ultimately work to redefine it from within. Which leads us back to the question, what's an American? An American is someone whose paramount allegiance is with the United States and its founding ideals. When our founders signed the Declaration of Independence, they risked being hung, drawn, and quartered, an execution of the most brutal fashion imaginable. That was their level of allegiance to America. Political science professor Stanley Renshaw also sees allegiance as the cornerstone of being an American.
The idea of what it means to be an American is an emotional and psychological commitment to the country, its well-being, the idea that you want to further its overall national interest, and that you're willing to make a hierarchy in which other groups and other perspectives have some presence, but that the primary allegiance that you hold of all those different ones that you can have is to America.
But contrary to what some believe, it doesn't matter how long you've been in this country to be an American. My family has been here for over 300 years. That makes me a Native American. But those that have a full allegiance to America and its founding ideals are just as American as I. That's why it's so important to be careful who we let in. They must have full allegiance with America. Because if this principle of allegiance doesn't become overwhelmingly dominant in the U.S., this country will inevitably serve those that don't even consider America their home.
Barack has led by example. When we took our trip to Africa and visited his home country in Kenya, we took a public HIV test.
Red Pilled America is an iHeartRadio original podcast. It's owned and produced by Patrick Horelchi and me, Adriana Cortez, for Informed Ventures. Now you can get ad-free access to our entire catalog of episodes by becoming a Backstage subscriber. To subscribe, just visit redpilledamerica.com and click Join in the top menu. Thanks for listening.
When you own your own business, you need to keep things moving. Need to book a last-minute flight? Earn a $300 travel credit to cover that. Need to take a meeting before takeoff? Do it from the comfort of the Chase Sapphire Lounge by the club. Need to catch your breath before you board? Done. Chase Sapphire Reserve for Business, the business card that gives back all you put in. Visit chase.com/reserve business to learn more. Cards issued by JPMorgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC, subject to credit approval. Terms apply.
I need to be healthy every day to survive it and go through the next chemo round and the next chemo round. So it's important that work was part of that, to keep my mind busy for 8-9 hours. And then I had to go back and face the reality. I had a goal, and the goal is to survive.
Research shows there is a significant connection between the ability to continue to work and cancer recovery. We can make work a better place for healing.
Learn more and sign the pledge at workingwithcancerpledge.com.
Turn someday into right now with Body by Jake Radio. Non-stop workout music and expert tips 24/7.
Hey, head over to iHeart.com, search Body by Jake Radio, and stream it for free right now.
Awesome health and wellness tips 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Remember, stick to the fight. When your hardest hit, it's when things seem worst that you must not quit. Don't quit.
Body by Jake Radio, where hope meets momentum.
Search Body by Jake Radio and stream it for free. Have a great day.
iHeartRadio.